And we say hello to Carl Henrik Knutsen, professor of political science at the University of Oslo. Thank you for speaking with us here on France 24.
Thank you for having me on.
It's a rare moment where the Norwegian parliament this Tuesday agreeing to let an outside probe look into the Epstein files. First off, give us the mood in Norway.
I think the magnitude and the number, both the number of people, but also the importance of these figures that were reported in Norwegian politics, in Norwegian society. I think this naturally came down as a shock to Norway. The context is also a country that likes to regard itself, and I would say rightly so in general, as a very well-functioning democracy, and also being, compared to most other countries in the world, relatively limited in terms of corruption. So of course this is really something that has come down as a shock, and this has been the prime issue of debate, both regarding this specific case, but also further what kinds of reforms would need to be taken. What should we do now in order to avoid such things happening again?
Yeah, let's talk about one specific case. It's an email from Jeffrey Epstein to disgraced former EU Commissioner and British Ambassador Peter Mandelson. It's dated May the 5th, 2010. It shows up in this latest document dump by the U.S. Department of Justice. It's simply, do you know Terje Roed-Larsen? Just remind our viewers, who is Terje Roed-Larsen?
Terje Roed-Larsen is a really famous diplomat and very powerful diplomat with a long track record, both as was mentioned in terms of the Middle East peace process back in the 90s, but also a very well-connected establishment figure who has also served briefly a stint as a cabinet minister in Norway. So he is really kind of both a very well-known figure in Norwegian diplomacy, highly regarded for his accomplishments, but also a figure that has been previously kind of entangled in some controversy, would be fair to say.
Yeah.
He's then also married to, sorry.
I was just going to say, Jeffrey Epstein hones in on the fact that this is a player, this is someone who can get him introduced to movers and shakers in the Middle East.
Right. And this is, of course, this is the world of diplomacy in general. I mean, personal relations, whenever you cross borders, there's a relatively limited number of people entangled in foreign diplomacy. And the more well-networked you are, the better you are in the position then to be kind of approached by others who would like to kind of either get in contact with someone or expand their influence. So, of course, this is in general, but also Norway, given its prominent role in various peace processes, also kind of high on the international agenda in several kind of global initiatives, for example, within the UN, is kind of punching above its weight in terms of diplomacy and international networks. And I would say Terje Roed-Larsen kind of personifies this point.
But there's this issue of the timeline, right? He was sidelined in 2020 already for his alleged links to Jeffrey Epstein. And yet his wife, who it turns out in these emails, if it's corroborated, if it's true, received the largesse of Jeffrey Epstein, was still the ambassador to Jordan.
Right. Right now, it points to very difficult issues, right? Of where to draw the line in terms of personal connections and where to kind of have expensive investigations and what to assume. But I think this has been the major debate in Norway now is whether or not there should be a parliamentary investigative or an investigative committee set down by Parliament that should have an independent investigation, not only into this, but more generally into the dealings of the foreign service and how it operates. Because the suspicion is, of course, that there are more of these kind of deals and interactions that would not kind of hold up in the day of light. And this is something that I think is imperative not only for Norwegian diplomacy, but also for trust in the broader Norwegian political system, that we kind of look into this and create safeguards for these kinds of events not happening again. So this goes to the trust in the broader political system, I would say.
Yeah, the trust in the broader political system. I know Transparency International every year puts Norway in the top 5 or 6 of the least corrupt countries in the world. Does that mean it's a nation that just doesn't really look too closely at what goes on behind closed doors?
I think there might be some element of truth to that. This has been a criticism also of Norwegian democracy and the political system more generally. I mean, because it's been so well functioning and compared to other countries, relatively limited corruption, although of course there have been several corruption scandals. That happens in all countries. It's really hard to kind of have zero corruption in any society. But the fact that it's been relatively limited and that it's been relatively well functioning probably means that a lot of the kind of safeguards and constraints and the monitoring that you would have in some more historically societies with more proven corruption, they are probably not in place. It's costly to monitor corruption and put up all these safeguards. And the notion has been, if you have a system that is working fairly well, then we might kind of do this more informally. So there might be room for more strict rules. And I think it's very clear that these rules need to be in place, even if they are cumbersome and costly. Getting these kinds of abuses of power, these kinds of scandals, if you like, is extremely costly and risky. So kind of having a second look at the system, I think on different levels to make sure that corruption is more easily detected and will have costs. I think that's imperative for regaining trust in the political system.
So one quick final question for you, Carl Henrik Knutsen. I mean, we've just listed a laundry list of famous people in Norway, right? The former Prime Minister, Jagland, that power couple we were mentioning that was at the heart of the Oslo Accords, of course, the Crown Princess. Which is the story that surprised you the most?
Well, I would say the Crown Princess story was a bit surprising. It's not the most egregious, it seems to me, at least. Though this is not kind of, so here I'm more speaking as a private person. To me, it just seems like the Terje Roed-Larsen stuff is the clearly most egregious. But again, I think the number of people involved is of course also surprising, taking into account that Norway is a relatively small country with close elite networks. That could be one explanation for why there are kind of several people who are then in contact and who are then set in contact with a figure such as Jeffrey Epstein and his broader network.
Carl Henrik Knutsen, so many thanks for being with us from Oslo.
Thank you so much for having me.